How much time we got?
How much as you'll give us, Mr. Musgrave?
How much time we got? We got an hour? Or?
Probably half an hour or so.
Oh, okay. So, you want me to just jump into the issues you're working? Or you want to start, get a little introduction to warm you up?
Sure.
Sure.
We'd love to hear about what mission you keep it.
Well, I flew 6 different missions. I was on Challengers. Huh?
Did you say 7?
I said 6.
Oh.
I'd have done 7. They fired me, so that took care of the 7th one. I'm Challenger's first flight. Did the first shuttle spacewalk on Challenger's first flight. Because I had designed the spacesuits for about a dozen years. So I was into the physiology, and I'm a physician, so I know the physiology of the backpack that's looking after you. I know the ergonomics of joints, I know the human factors, usability, all those kind of things that you get into designing a suit. So fortunately, after 12 years of designing the suit, I got to be the one that went out and tested it. Sometimes life is not that just. At least laid out okay on that one. So I deployed the first inertial upper stage satellite, the first booster that we ever put in the shuttle program. And it carried a tracking data relay satellite up there, so I was the first on that. I had to learn that mission by looking at drawings because there was no simulator yet. So I have to look at a drawing and figure out how it's going to work. And I came up with controls and display panels that were just from photographs or from my own art form. And so I'd have switches on them, you know, but I would have the talkbacks with Velcro, where if it's barber pole or gray, I would Velcro onto the talkbacks to tell myself this is what it's going to look like. So I developed the simulators for further missions that was going to do that. So that's the kind of mission I like, in which you're writing the code for the next simulators. You're developing a mission instead of getting handed a mission, which is very mature. A mature mission, you only train on the checklist. You don't do anything else. You don't design the mission. And you don't have to come up with simulators. They got simulators, they got trainers, and all you learn is what item entry to a computer, what knobs to turn, what switches to throw. When you have a checklist and you work with mission control, it's always mission control. It's their mission, not yours. You simply execute it for them, along with them. And so, SDS-6, which was Challenger's first flight, I did those first things, so that was nice. I did an astronomy mission also on Challenger. We had every kind of observatory in the back. We had the largest cosmic ray observatory. Now all this stuff it's on the internet. I love taking notes, so that's important. I'll give you, so the SDS-6 was the first one. But if you simply do SDS-6 on the internet, go to Wikipedia, you'll get an incredibly good summary of the whole thing. The second one was SDS-51F. It was astronomy. So it was a cosmic ray telescope, the largest ever in space. It was an infrared telescope. It was 2 X-ray telescopes and 4 ultraviolet telescopes. Now, of course, you can see why you do that up there, because the cosmic rays, I know you're getting into the radiation. One of your projects is radiation. And we, of course, are protected on Earth by the magnetic field around Earth and the fact we've got all this nice atmosphere. The radiation does not get to us down here on Earth. We are protected from it. I know the project you're working in, how do you get protection when you're out there? But the nice thing about telescopes in space is they can look at the whole universe in the electromagnetic spectrum. I know that's a terrible word on heads, but there's a total bit of information which comes to you, and it can be in the infrared, it can be in the visible, the eye see, it can be sound, it can be those frequencies, it can be x-rays. And so there's, along that spectrum, there's a whole bunch, the whole universe is talking to you in these different frequencies. But you get out there in space and it's clear view. My Hubble Space Telescope, a very famous thing. I'm skipping ahead, but I worked on it for 18 years. I designed it to be serviceable up there, and I was on the first mission to go and fix a whole bunch of broken things. Hubble is so successful out there, it's only a 94-inch mirror because it's in clear viewing. Hubble's out there, and it can look in the ultraviolet, it can look in the infrared. It has absolutely pure viewing. It's not a powerful telescope. They got 30-meter telescopes down here on Earth, but still it's the most powerful thing around because it's in clear viewing. So that's why you put telescopes in space, because they can look at all the different frequencies. And there's totally clear viewing all the time. So that space is a really nice place to put a telescope. But that's why on my second flight, STS-51F, I carried all these telescopes up there. So again, you can take the notes, but you can Wikipedia STS-51F. And so that was also a fabulous mission because it's the first time ever and the only time ever the shuttle carried up that number of telescopes into the observatory. And so we had a very, very difficult mission to plan, how to keep all those people happy and to get the most out of that. It was also the first flight of an instrument pointing system that is a very accurate pointing telescope down to, less than 1 arc second. Just very, very fine pointing. So the instrument pointing system allowed us to point instruments far more accurately than anything in the past. For an example, I could not move around in the shuttle without disturbing that pointing system. So I did the studies of true motion disturbance of the telescope. So the shuttle is about 240,000 pounds. It's a big, big vehicle. And we had a great pointing system, but me just moving around like a squirrel, me just moving around in the cabin to disturb how accurate this pointing is. So I did some neat studies where we set the instrument's point system to point exactly at a star. And I'd come up on this wall here, and I'd push off of this wall and go to that wall. And so they were recording the video of me moving inside the shuttle at the same time they were recording the pointing, the accuracy of the pointing. So they came up with crew motions, how badly crew motions in the shuttle are going to disturb, astronomical pictures. So, but that was a fun thing to do. But all these things I'm just bringing up, things, some neat points. I did 2 Department of Defense missions. That's about as much as I'll say about them. They were for other customers. We had a very elliptical orbit. And when I can talk about the orbits after you've already been there because of the quotes bad guys can look at what your orbit was, and I can also say we deployed something. You're not allowed to say that ahead of time. But after you've deployed something, even an amateur astronomer can watch you deploy something, so you have to fess up to doing that. So, even an amateur astronomer will see you. They were not exciting missions for me because they're rather mature. The technology was known. I was not developing the missions. The mission was handed to me, go execute it. So I did 2 of those. But given that I was in the middle of that, I did get exposed to everything they're doing in space, all the classified stuff. So I did learn some new technologies they were doing. Now, 5th one was the Hubble repair mission. 13 major systems that were broke. But I designed Hubble for 18 years. I designed it to be serviceable. So in 75, they told me to look after that machine, identify every failure it could get into, and then to come up with spacewalking procedures to fix it. So for 18 years, I participated in the serviceability and design, the repairability of Hubble. And in fact, I did come up with great procedures because they worked. And the commissions after mine also worked, so. And then I flew that mission, we had 13 major systems I had to get. So again, I just was very glad after 18 years of work on it, I was the one that got to go and do that. I was your lead space worker on that everything. So, but you have to look at how I got that job. I think it's very important for you kids. How I got that job, I got a job because I'm a farm kid. I have 7 graduate degrees, but they don't fix things. It's not why I got a job. I got a job because I'm a farm kid. Okay, because I tinker. You know, I rode a balers at age 7 or 8. I drove everything on the farm at the age of 9. Left in a remote field by 12 or 13, I keep stuff going. And so I never finished high school, but then I went off. I was an airplane mechanic with the Marine Corps. The only certified airplane mechanic the astronaut corps has ever had. So, you know, so who am I? I'm a farm kid. I'm child labor. Maybe some of you know what child labor is. I know what child labor is. It's who I am. It's, you learn how to survive, get that stupid job done, right? Under really bad conditions without OSHA looking after you. It's very interesting, even today, OSHA's not permitted to have any rules. There are no rules that apply to farm kids. None of the child labor, today, I'm talking about 2013. Obama tried to get in, he failed, because you can't touch child labor. Because without child labor, the farm goes under. So it's interesting, maybe some of you have lived that world. And even OSHA cannot get involved in what you do with kids. So they get exposed to any form of moving machinery. Why do you say, this doesn't sound good, but it's damn good for me. I tell you, it's who I am. So I got through that world and I learned my trade. But it's why I got to go and face the telescope. Because no one, you know, had the exposure I had as a child to the machinery and the mechanics that I had. And so then I enlisted in the Marine Corps mechanic. I ended up having a big motor, 3,000 horsepower, big motor. But within months, I became a plane captain where I had responsibility for 3 airplanes. They assigned them to me, and they're my airplanes. And I did my motor, I worked on the motor, but I coordinated all of the maintenance. But I'm the one that signed up 100 items that says this airplane is airworthy and ready to go to war. I'm the one that signs the airplane off. I did that at age 18. I'm the one that says whether or not this airplane can go fly, age 18. And that's on a carrier too. So you see how I got raised. But then I went to college, I was driving tanks. I drove tanks with the Marines, active reserve, going to college. I drove heavy equipment then too. Had a Corvette then too. That educated me on what you got to do with machinery. Then I was a trauma surgeon fixing broken people, so that's the way life goes. But that's why I got that job to fix the telescope. So that mission went very well. But that's why I got a job in the first place. Who's got that background? Nobody got that background. Not a single astronaut has ever had that background. No one came from child labor and no one was enlisted Marine Corps mechanic. It's all mechanical. It's how you fix things and how you design stuff. And so of course I worked for Disney Imagineering, designing ride systems. Why? Because I'm a farm kid. That's what I get. So don't forget that lesson. Whatever you did in your passion was going to work for you. So my final plot was electronic chip manufacturing facilities, how you make an electronic chip. So the difference up there was it was a very good vacuum. It's called 10 to the minus 12th, don't worry about that. That's torr, that's kind of 10 to the minus 12th atmosphere, that's how thin the air was. But it's how thin the air was on the back side of the satellite. So on the front side, you have air, ram air pushing on it, so that was 10 to the minus 6. But in the wake, here was 10 to the minus 12. So you have much more vacuum, you see, if you go through space. What it does say is there's some atmosphere in space, there's some air in space. So it's not a pure vacuum, there's some air here. And so if you shove something through the air pressure, like you put your hand out of a car that's moving along, pressure on that side would be a lot more than on the back side. And so I deployed and operated, I had a PC kind of thing. I deployed and operated that satellite. They were going to have me operate it with Windows, but they didn't get upgraded fast enough, so I used DOS. No one knows what DOS is. You know what DOS is? I was so good on DOS, it held me up with Windows. When I first got Windows 3.0, half of what I was doing with Windows was the run command, because I knew what I was doing. So, yeah, but so life happens. So my first PC was a Commodore 64. So, but you know, life happens. I was almost 50 when I got my first PC. Why? Because it didn't happen. Space couldn't happen. When I was your age, you think I wanted to be an astronaut? No, there was no space. I'm in graduate school, there's no space. Got it, kids? I'm in graduate school, space program, there's no space program. So life happens. And it's going to be a brand new occupation you can't make. Because life happens. So things change. I think the next big era will be the era of biology. I think things like the genome and biological engineering stem cells, or that kind of cutting edge kind of stuff, I think that's where the future is. So it's in biology, and I'm getting involved today. That is, what is it, December 6th? I'm getting involved today in looking at, even though I have before, but I'm really getting immersed in taking the designs from the cosmos, that's biological designs, and how you design software and hardware in institutions based on the way, you know, the way that biological designs evolved, and how you take the basic design of biological systems, or it could even be the cosmos itself, and how you move that into the human world. Anyway, that's a little far out, but that's the future for you kids. But another lesson there is you're preparing for the unknown. You don't know where you're going. You do not know where you're going, and that doesn't matter. It's one step at a time. It's if you work on a farm, do it well, learn what you gotta learn. That's all, learn what you gotta learn. I was giving a talk someplace last week, and some kid said, sorry, Mr. Musgrave, I'm gonna be walking out in the middle of your program because I gotta go, I got a job at Best Buy. I said, that's fantastic, man. Don't you ever forget what you learned at Best Buy. Whatever you do in life is gonna play a part in your future. All that technology you're learning, how to get along with people, how to make a business happen. See, that's what you do. I worked at Best Buy. You'll never forget I worked at Best Buy. And you bring that forward with yourselves. So, anyway, that's kind of a life lesson in addition to the 6 missions I flew, why I flew. So that's a good warm-up too. That's a good warm-up too. But you see, it's not quite as, space is not as far out as it looks. There's a massive amount of pragmatism that you can apply. You can apply to that thing. So, well, what you do is you build a repertoire of skills. Everything you ever do, you build a portfolio of all the things you've ever done, all the things you're ever been good at. And now today, December 6, 2013, you say, who am I and where do I go next? Life is very simple, you know. You look at what I've done and say, well, I can't do that. Well, you can't do that. I just do one stupid little thing at a time. One thing after another, that's all I do. One thing after another. So maybe I'm into biological design. I'll take it for a ride. Take it for a ride for a few months, then I'll stop and say, okay, I've acquired that skill. What's the next? What's the next step I'm going to take? So that's the way life goes. It's not as complex as it looks. So you look at where you're trying to be when you're 50 or 60. Well, that's a very complicated process, and you really can't scope that out because new technologies will be there. But it's just one little thing at a time. And so it's one academy. It's one course you have here. It's this project, and it's that project, and it's that course, and it's this course, and it's this athletic field. You just scoop them up and you take them in. You do the best you can, then you go forward. Now that I've acquired all that, December 6, 2013, what am I going to do? Who am I? What's the next mountain to climb? That's how simple life is. It's nowhere near as bad as it looks. It really isn't. That's what I did. Well, do you have any specific questions on anything? On anything or your projects there? But that'll be sort of the theme of my thing tonight too. I've kind of focused down a theme of personal and professional development. I found that really works with people, and it works at all ages too. You're not done, for God's sake, you're not done. I'm 80 years old, okay? I'm 80 friggin' years old, and this month, I'm embarking on the next thing. I'm embarking on the next thing. I haven't quit and I'm not done. Got it, kids? 80. And I'm taking on the next mountain. Okay? It's not over till it's over. And me and my little girl going flying in space. I'm not done. We're going to Virgin Galactic. I got a 7-year-old kid. I didn't say grandkid, I said kid. Me and a little story. I'm story, she's story. So we're going to space again. Virgin Galactic. Huh? What's the next mountain to climb? Yes, ma'am?
I was trying to think, who heads that up? Is it, who's heading up that?
Well, Virgin Galactic is Branson owns it.
Yeah,
He sold,
Richard Branson?
yeah, but he sold a lot of it off. He sold it to Dubai. I'm not sure why he would. The world is strange, right?
Absolutely.
It's, I'm sorry to tell you kids about that. The world is complex that he would sell that to Dubai, but he did. But anyway, we'll see how it happens. We'll see if he gets flying and gets a reliable track record. I'm not gonna expose me or little story to any kind of risk. So my lessons there is not just for kids, although it's very helpful for kids because they get to see a simpler path and they get to understand I can get there, and they do get to understand that life is going to change. And I'm making forks in the road, I'll be changing my path. And so, but they got more of their life out ahead of them, but it's the same lesson is applicable to adults as well.
Musgrave,
Yes.
our underclassmen are looking at mining asteroids. And so when you said that you foresee biology and really where things are gonna happen, how does the future look for space exploration? Where are the monies and the efforts going towards, as far as you understand?
Well, I don't understand, of course. Gotta get a vision. We don't have a vision now. There is no asteroid mission. And we're not going to Mars. So there's talk about it because, you know, it's out there, but there is no program. Yeah, so everything starts with a good vision. And vision is looking at where you want to be in a year, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 10 years. It's where you want to be, what you want to be doing, and a concept of how you're going to do it. And so you get a great vision, and then you get great leadership to make that vision happen. And so almost every project there is vision, and then it's leadership. And so, but it doesn't mean biology can play a role in spaceflight too. Biology and biodesign can help you design the next spaceships too. And there's a massive amount of biology design. We are not going to Mars without biology. You cannot store enough food and enough water to get there. It's a closed ecological system. It's the only way we're going anywhere. It's you and it's the plants over there. You feed manure to the plants and they grow. The plants consume your carbon dioxide and give you oxygen. It's a closed ecological system. We're not going out anywhere without biology. So biology can play a part in spaceflight too. But that's one of the hurdles that we haven't addressed. I know you're dealing with radiation. That's one also for which we have no answer today. That's kind of like a showstopper for really, long-term spaceflight. But the closed ecological systems is something we don't have totally down yet. We don't have the psychology totally down yet. We're very good at long-duration spaceflight now, but there's a huge difference where if you have a medical problem, you can make it home tomorrow. You'll be home tomorrow. If I get sick today, I'm in an intensive medical center tomorrow. So that's a psychological thing. I can come home tomorrow. If my ship catches on fire, I jump off of my lifeboat and I'm out of there. I'm going to Mars, it ain't that way. If you get sick, you're going to die. And when you see Mother Earth, Earth becomes only a star. It's nice to be out in space and looking at Mother Earth. And I can be on Earth tomorrow. I can get home tomorrow, man, when you're on the way to Mars, you know, and you can't turn around, you're gone. So you're gone for a couple of years. And so if things go bad, that's it, it's over. And so that's a different psychology. That's a different psychology. So I think the psychological aspects we also need to deal with. That when Earth becomes only as big as a bright star, when you're looking at Venus out there with the moon the last couple of nights, that's what Earth's gonna look like. Except maybe, I think Venus is brighter than Earth, so. That's what your home would look like, yeah.
What do you think gave you, like, the way you think, like, to keep moving forward with philosophy?
I don't know what gave it to me. But you structure, you got right to the heart of the problem. You got right to the heart of the problem. So I have a very nice biography, 400 pages. She did a good job when she went after that, but I don't think she caught it. And so, yeah, I don't know. But you know that the trite answer is, your parents give you a certain set of genetics. Your DNA and your RNA, sperm meets egg, and that's your genetics. But even in the womb, the environment that this genetic starts to work in, that forms you. That's the trite kind of nature nurture. Genetics and what you get exposed to makes you. But so at the age of 3, I was out in the forest alone at night. But a pine forest can't hurt you, you know, it's totally benign, so there's nothing to that. But I was out there exploring nature. I'd stretch my mother as far out as I could go. How many hours can it be gone? I won't worry about it. I stretched her into the night too. And so, it's so darn cold out there now, but I was out at -12 Fahrenheit one day. This is in Western Massachusetts. I said, Mom, I'm going out. She never asked, you know, why are you going out? She never said, Story, it's cold out there. She just started buttoning me up, layer after layer, you know. Mittens, she pinned the mitten down here, and she pinned the mitten on the other side, and keep the mittens on. So, you know, I'm only 7 or 8, I don't know, but she gonna be sure I don't get frost, but you know what Mom was really doing? I can't pee. I can't get where I gotta get, and if I do it again, I can't get there. Mom says, I'll get a kid back in an hour and a half. You're not gonna be out there too long. So, but that gets right to your question of, you know, the point of, I was always an explorer. I was always a person that had strong self-reliance, but I don't have the answer. The real answer to your question, where does the energy come from? That restless energy, you've got to keep going forward. You got to explore the new things. You got to climb the next mountain. That you do, in fact, on December 6, 2013, say, where do I go next? You know, where is that energy to keep doing that? Well, I can't stop myself. You know? I got to live with myself, and I've been living with myself for 80 years. Still, you know, just moving on. And so, I guess I find it fun, that's all. It's fun. It's just plain fun. I can't stop. It's plain fun. So. But, you know, where that came from, well, to try to answer is genetics, and I got exposed to certain environments that made me who I am. Well, I try to show that path to people. I try to show them the path of how one thing leads to another, just the path, you know. So, you know, child labor back then, he used to throw the darn hay bales all the time. I'd be throwing a bale that weighs as much as me. After a while, I'd throw the bag, the bales up in the wagon. Hay is sharp. Any of you work with hay? Well, it's sharp. And so it eats into your clothes, and then it's eating into your skin, because you ain't got no clothes. And so you got pus and blood, and you turn it into a mess. But so that kid ain't going nowhere. Man, a miserable life, that is. Well, when I was a freshman in high school, I took up wrestling. Undefeated for 4 years. You can't touch me. The other freshmen take up weightlifting. I've been weightlifting for 8 years. They can catch me. They can't. So you say the hay bales aren't going anywhere. The hay bales was undefeated wrestling. You said, well, so that's not going anywhere. It paid me room, board, and tuition in college. And so, you see, but that's the lesson I got for you. It's hay bales, and you say, doggone it. You know, that's not going anywhere. It's going to room, board, and tuition. And you don't take a spacewalk and need some upper body strength. I'm a tree surgeon today. I go up trees with ropes. And so the most efficient person with a chainsaw, you get the biggest saw that you can handle with one hand, not both. the bigger saw, see, that limits where you go with a saw, if you have to hang on with two hands. This handles the wood, and this one, I can fly. I put the biggest saw I can in one hand, see, just like a sword like this. But see, the hay mills, it's working today. But that's the path, see, that's why an important lesson you give. You leverage the skills and the talents and the experience, you leverage it. And if you threw hay bales for all that time when you were a kid, just leverage it. How you gonna put it to use? Yes, sir.
When you went up into space, what life support systems were in place to protect you from radiation?
Got nothing?
Nothing.
We had no radiation protection. So it was not built into the system. So like the space shuttle, like Apollo, those space shuttle, space station, there's nothing built into that structure to protect you from radiation. We just took the radiation. We took a bunch too, a fair amount. Cosmic rays are hard to stop. Gee whiz, you know, water helps, but how much water you got? So nothing was built in. Now the spacesuit has some protection from micrometeorites, so you can maintain some pressure after you've taken a hit. It'll disperse, you know, it'll try to disperse micrometeoroids. Those are even smaller than a little piece of pencil lead. But they're not there to protect you from radiation. So basically, our current spaceships had nothing. They are not designed for protection from radiation. And so, and the times, well, on the Hubble missions, I got the most radiation, well, of any space flight, because we were flying through the magnetosphere where all of high energy particles were trapped in the Earth's magnetic field. So we were flying through that stuff. But it's kind of fun, because when you're trying to go to sleep at night, and it's 4th of July in your eyeballs, you know, you're trying to go to sleep, it's like rockets going off in your eyeballs. So those are the cosmic rays. You probably didn't hear about this little stuff, did you? Those are called the light flashes. So you see the radiation going to your eyeballs. And I always look at my watch, and I check the next day and see. Usually the South Atlantic anomaly, where the magnetosphere dips down into the Earth, and we were flying right through there. But they're pretty spectacular. Now, that's on a Hubble mission. The thing streaked through the eyes. The other missions, they were punctate dots of white. I have never had a plasma physicist tell me why. I know there was more energy, more radiation on the Hubble missions, but they never could give me the answer as to why they streaked through the eyes in one case, and there were just dots of white in the other cases. But when we pointed out these problems to NASA, so they're looking at how the radiation is creating the stuff in the eyeball. So they got thinking it's hitting the retina of the eye, or it's hitting what's called the visual cortex back here. So if you were to stimulate the visual cortex, you would see things which don't exist, of course. If you stimulate the sensory part of the brain, you would feel things out here, although there's nothing out here. So if you stimulate the brain where the hand and the arm is, you would feel things in your hand, which of course are not there, because the brain would be triggered there. So they thought it would be the retina or the visual part of the brain. So they got volunteers to stick their heads in accelerators. You know these things where they got particles going around? You know, like Fermi-Lab. And they're called accelerators. And that, sure. So they stuck their heads in, not me, I got enough up there, I didn't part into that. But they stuck their heads in accelerators and they shielded, see, the different parts. And they found out that it's in the liquid part of the eye, not the retina and not the brain. So it's in the liquid part. You're like a Wilson cloud chamber, except you're a biological Wilson cloud chamber. So that's where the action is happening there. So, but that's the radiation. That's the light flashes. It's kind of interesting stuff. Yeah.
Could you feel any of it? Like, was there any? Was there
No,
pain? Or?
but I think, and this is not in the NASA records. It's not in the NASA records. There's a lot of, we tried to tell NASA at times, and because it's anecdotal, because it's not a controlled experiment, they simply don't take the data in and do something with it. So adaptation to zero G, they're massively far behind the actual data the reports would give them because it is not a scientifically controlled kind of study. But you do get the jerks. The jerks is you're sleeping and your arm does that. And so, God, the Hubble mission, I had a night where I was just jerking, while I'm trying to sleep. Things were jerking, and I got up the next morning, I asked my buddies, I said, hey, what kind of night you guys have? And I don't mind saying it, but a lot of people, they're hesitant to talk about this because maybe they're the only one got the jerks. And so they look like a nutcase if you're asking your buddies if they had the jerks and they didn't. So you're out there jerking, so it doesn't look so good on you. I never mind about that stuff. So I asked my buddies, hey, what kind of night did you have? Did you find yourself, doing this? And they said, every one of them, yeah. And so I have no answers for that. But the question is the radiation tripping on the motor part? So, if you have a brain and you take a little electrical stimulus, and this goes back to this is far back as the 1940s, when they did these experiments and they're operating on people. If you stimulate that part of the brain that has the motor response for doing this, my hand will move. But the funny thing is you think you willed your hand to move. Well, that's going a little far out, but it's interesting stuff. So I just thought, is this jerking? Is that because the radiation is hitting the motor part of my brain that controls this motion? So if you stimulate that part of the brain, the hand's going to do that. So I was wondering, I hadn't had the jerks ever before. And only on the Hubble mission did I have the jerks while I'm sleeping. So I'm thinking that stuff's hitting the motor part of my brain.
We've been trying to figure out if astronauts that have spent a lot of time in outer space, do they have higher rates of cancer? And we haven't been able to find anything out about that.
They do not have higher rates of cancer, but they got higher rates of cataracts, like mine. I got fried. But my case was, it was more confusing because I had so much time at high altitude flying and without any protective sunglasses. They said, well, you had sunglasses, but in the early days, the sunglasses had no UV protection. They reduced the amount of light, but they did not have prescribed UV protection. And so my eyeballs took a heck of a lot of ultraviolet in addition to my radiation. That's been proven now. Astronauts have more cataracts, and they're convinced that's due to radiation. They have an average amount of cancer. And so there is a longitudinal study, and you can probably get that if you want it. And so everyone who has been in space, they get free, very extensive examinations. So you have people who have been in space, and you have a control set of people who have not been in space, but they're similar to, and you have the general population. So statistically, you have 3 different populations looking for, is there a significant, more disease or pathology in people that fly in space? And cancer, no. But we should have more cancer. We really should, and we don't. But we got more cataracts. And cataracts are susceptible to radiation. We should have more cancer. It's a great question. We should have, we don't. Statistically, we don't have it yet. But we are arriving at the point where we're dying. The early astronauts, there's only one left. And so we're, starting the space program late 50s, so astronauts are dying now of normal causes or other causes. So we are old enough to be getting cancer. So we should be getting more of it. But there's, I think the Meniere's disease of the middle ear, they haven't, that group that's doing this hasn't yet said we get more of it, but I'm looking at the number of cases of that, and I can't help but think that that is significant. But we do have eye problems too. There's a brand new thing on eye problem which may be significant. So it's called a longitudinal study of space flyers. And I think it's probably public, it may be public information. Although sometimes NASA doesn't want our medical records out there. They don't have to talk about the medical records of the individual. Guys got anything else? It's kind of fun stuff, isn't it? Yeah, it's fun stuff.
Do you believe the future of space lies in the private industry or governments, or will it have to be a combination of both? Who's going to be pushing our boundaries?
Yeah. Well, it's complex. I think it'll be a combination of both, but you have to ask what private is. So private is not private. We're paying for private now. Although we don't tell them what to do, we're paying the bill. Taxpayers are paying the bill. So taxpayers are paying SpaceX's bill now.
And is that because SpaceX is getting grants from NASA? Is that how you
Yeah,
mean that
well,
connection
but
is?
grants is hundreds of millions, so that's a good grant. But, I think the problem is you have to get a long-term vision for what you as a world population and you as a country, you know, the two of them put together, the collaboration. You got a vision for what you want to do in spaceflight. Here's the long-term vision. The 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, 20 year, that's where we're trying to go in space. That is the vision. Now, once you got the vision down, you get the leadership in place to make it happen. You get guaranteed long-term congressional support. You can't abandon the vision in the middle. Once you got that down in place, you look at how do you apportion getting that vision done, the pieces to get done, and you put the pieces on the street as a statement of work. Who could do this for us? The same way we always did. So, and you pick a source that is a person, private or commercial or whatever, that's got the best probability of getting your job done on time, on cost, per specification, meaning perform like you said it needed to. So this is the same as project management. You want to build a school? It's the same thing, it's no different. Build a school, build a spacecraft, the process is all the same. It's project management, it is a vision, it is leadership, it's an idea. How do you make it happen? So how do you make the long-term vision happen? You can have an overall integrator. They contract, looks at the whole thing, but you break it down into pieces. I need to get this done, and here's the date I need to do it. You put that out on the street. Who can do this for us? And here are the requirements, here are the specifications it's got to meet to follow your vision. You put that out in the street, and it doesn't matter if it's Boeing, if it's Lockheed Martin, or SpaceX, or any of those other people. You pick the person that's most likely to come through in performance, to get the job done on cost, on time, and meet the specifications of your vision. That's the way I run a space program. It's called classical project management. It's what we did in the 60s, when we were magnificently successful. We know how to do this. We did it in the 60s. And North American Aviation was a private company. Boeing is private, you know. Boeing is a for-profit organization, the same as SpaceX, no different. Boeing is? It's no different, SpaceX. So it's what job you want to get done. But it's very confusing now. Obama said, give it to the private people. What is a private person? Well, we don't know what a private person is. But the private people now are doing it. They're billionaires from Amazon. They're billionaires from PayPal. They're billionaires that want to play in the sandbox because they got so much money they don't know what to do with it. So they want to play in space, but they want to play their game, see, not our game. So they want to play their game, and that's fine. But the government did not pay for iPads or iPods or iPhones. The government didn't pay for that. Apple's a private company. So if you want to be private and you want to sell yourself as private, you should come up with a capability and sell that to the people that need it. So it's a confusing issue. I like the entrepreneurial effort, but it's Mercury technology. SpaceX is Mercury technology. Now, do we need to go back to Mercury? Is that a futuristic program? Maybe. Soyuz is kind of backward too, but it's a really good performer. Soyuz is decades old, but we need it. So it's great project management. But that's why I see it, is getting the vision and doing it. But that's kind of classical thinking. What else you got?
Do you consider yourself inspirational?
I'm massively inspirational. Yeah. Yeah, I am inspirational. Everything I do is inspirational. I try to lead. You know, I try to create a simple path for people. I try to get them going and keep them moving forward. I try to get them to reach higher, you know, to look higher, to aspire to stuff. So yeah, I am inspirational. But I have a very nice path. So I have a path that I follow, which is a very, very simple path to follow. It's the one step at a time kind of path, leveraging the dots to your past, you know, working every experience you ever had. But I don't do well, you know. I got fired by NASA after 30 years. They fired me, kicked my ass out the door, man. When they get tired of my mission. I say, hey guys, where are we going? Well, we're not going anywhere. Well, I don't accept that. Where are we going, folks? What's the long-term vision? Okay, NASA, you gotta create a vision, you gotta lead to the vision. What are you doing? So I got in that bus for so long, you know, I got in that bus long enough, they got tired of me. You gotta get them out of here, so they got me out of there. I could have fought and won, but I don't care. I move on to bigger and better things. So, you know, I'm on the edge all the time. People get tired of you living on the edge. You have to live on the edge, but you can't be outside the edge. That's another lesson. Don't be outside the edge, because you're irrelevant. So in your organization that you're in, you want to be on the edge. You want to be on the cutting edge of that organization, but not outside, because outsiders can't make a difference. All kinds of philosophy here today. Yeah.
Did you enjoy going to space?
I love space. I was good at it. And I wasn't sick. That helps. So I didn't get sick at all. 70% of astronauts get sick. 50% are so sick they're vomiting. So 50% of astronauts are vomiting. Luckily, I didn't have that, but I think about space in a different way. It's like when one culture goes to another. So I didn't take my Earth-based self up there and say, this is the way I want it to happen. I just surrendered to space, and I'm a space person now. And so I move very well. I move very well here. You know, like a squirrel in a tree. I move well, I'm very comfortable with that environment. I'm exceedingly comfortable working with mission control because I was a communicator in mission control for 30 missions. I do understand it's not my mission, it's theirs. And I know how to keep them on board as to where I am and how it's going. I keep them on board, always looking for their help, always getting them to look over my shoulder. And so I know how to work with mission control as an extension. I'm their extension, is who I am. But that's just one of 100 things on why space was so comfortable to me. Because I understand that, and I know how to work that. Well, my adaptation to, fortunately, my adaptation to space goes so easy. I just roll out of the chair and away I go. And that makes it easy for me. Yeah,
The students this morning were exposed to the overview effect,
yeah,
Frank White's terminology,
yeah.
for what an astronaut experiences when
I
they're
know
viewing.
all about that. I know
Okay.
Frank and I know the book. It's kind of died, recently wrote the effects died, but it's okay, go ahead.
So just what I wanted to get from you is, did you experience that same phenomenon?
Well, the phenomenon hasn't happened either. The phenomenon could have been a huge driver for ecological and environmental kinds of, you know, impetus to make stuff happen. The first view, of course, was not a human view, it was ATS-5, but, so the first view of Earth from out there was an unmanned satellite. No, it certainly expanded my view, it expanded my sense of the beauty of geography and the beauty of earth, the beauty of the heavens and stuff. But I can't say it put me on a different track. I can't say it totally changed things. Now, it did not change humanity. The overview effect did not work. We have 35 wars this week, man. There's 35 wars. We got our own handful that we're messing with. There's 35 wars on this earth this week. When you see Earth from out there, you gotta say, we can't do that anymore. Okay, we can't do that anymore. And it was not that strong in terms of an environmental, sense of we're on a lifeboat, we gotta look after this place. It really didn't create those kind of forces, the view from Earth. When you're looking at Florida and you're looking at Cuba right there, and you say, why don't we get along? Ma'am, I'm sorry to tell you, it did nothing. It does nothing.
Why do you think?
Because
that
we're
it didn't
humans.
work?
We're humans. But we do gotta go beyond ourselves. We do have to look at the incredible blue waters. We need to see Florida and we need to see Cuba. We need to understand that Florida people are sweet people, the Cubans are sweet people. What is the problem? And force Washington to do what is right. And to stop sticking our nose in other people's business. The only words we needed back then in Castro's revolution was to say, we suffer for y'all, you're going to a revolutionary civil kind of war, we do hurt for you, but just understand, when the dust settles and you come out of it, we're your neighbors and we're your friends. We only need to say 2 sentences and that whole problem over decades would have been fixed. Well, so the hope is in you kids, because we're not going to pull that off. Not in our generation, so the hope is in you kids. But see, the overview effect and what it could have created, you talk about environmentally looking after this little lifeboat that we got, looking after the beauty and the home, the only home we'll ever have, and for establishing a peaceful global community. Those are all the kind of forces that the overview effect could have produced and did not. It's a great idea, but also, of course, it started with Buckminster Fuller. He was the first person. So he was the first person that said, once we get out there and get this view, that humanity will never be the same. So he was a real futurist. Is that it? Well, that's a good place to end. Hey, you kids have been funny. I'll spend all day with you. Thanks for the great questions, for the great dialogue. I wish you well on the journey. We touched on some of this stuff when we touched on a lot of our huge life lessons as well.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.